And our next speaker is a management and organization designer. He will be talking about culture. And his title is Why Character is the Key to a Healthy Culture. Raymond Hoffman, welcome.
Just trying to unmute myself. Welcome. Hello. Can you hear you?
Yes, and we can hear you very clearly. Raymond, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andre. And thank you all for being with us this evening. Culture should be easy. Everybody believes culture is essential. CEOs want a healthy culture because it improves performance. The rest of us want a healthy culture because we like to enjoy our work. But here's a question. If pretty much everybody wants a healthy culture, why don't we have more of them? In study after study, CEOs indicate that they're not satisfied with their corporate cultures. In a recent one by Duke University, just 15% said that they were happy with their corporate culture. And according to Gallup, 85% of employees worldwide are actually disengaged at work. Clearly, we're doing something wrong. But wait, isn't there a huge culture transformation market out there? Doesn't every consultancy, every coach, and every business school claim to know how it's done? Of course they do. Problem is, most of the stuff isn't working. And that's why the kind of numbers we just looked at haven't really changed in decades. So what are we to do? Give up? Of course not. You wouldn't be here if you were easily satisfied with the status quo. You want to improve things. And so do I. Almost 20 years ago, I quit my last corporate job when I resigned from the executive board of a Swiss software company. And ever since then, I've made it my mission to help organizations create better workplaces. And today I'd like to share with you the single most important lesson I learned about culture in all these years, and how each and every one of us can make a difference, whether we're the CEO, a middle manager, or a frontline team member. We can change culture. Actually, I believe you already know that. We all know what the problem is. The elephant is in the room. All we have to do is expose it. So let's go ahead and do that. To start, it may be useful to remind ourselves what culture actually is. It's simply a set of behavior patterns that gives an organization its distinctive identity. Culture is behavior. But why do so many culture transformation programs go wrong? I believe there are three reasons really for that. And the first is that most culture transformation models make one crucial mistake. They assume that culture is something that can be built. It's a formula. There has to be a process, 3, 4, 12 steps to follow. Every consultancy has one of these. The problem is culture can't be built. Culture emerges. It emerges over time as the result of countless individual behaviors that begin to form dominant patterns. All we can do is try to influence this process, and we do so through systems and leadership. And that brings us to our second reason, an overemphasis on systems over leadership. Now, don't get me wrong, systems are critically important. In fact, Deming teaches us that 95% of performance is governed by the system. So it's easy to think that systems is where we have to start. I thought that for many, many years, but it was wrong. And the reason is reasonably easy to see, because bad leaders won't build good systems. So we have to start with leadership. And that brings us to our third reason, because unfortunately, we also get leadership mostly wrong. But don't just take my word for it. Stanford's Jeffrey Pfeffer says as much in his book, Leadership BS. He concludes, the leadership industry has failed and continues to fail its task of producing leaders who are effective and successful. He's exactly right. And I believe the problem is one that's similar to culture itself. Leadership isn't following a formula. It isn't acquiring a set of skills. Like culture, leadership emerges. But there is one critical precondition without which leadership can never emerge. And that is character. Peter Drucker knew that long ago. I quote, leadership is exercised through character, and character is not something leaders can acquire. If the leader lacks character, no matter how knowledgeable, how brilliant, how successful, he destroys. He destroys people, the most valuable resource of the enterprise. He destroys spirit, and he destroys performance. And that's really the elephant in the room, isn't it? The lack of character in so many leaders, the kind of people who say A and they go around and, and then turn around and do B, the kind of people who seem to mostly care about themselves and their own careers. It really all comes down to character. So what can we do about it? For that, let's have a brief look at what character is and how it's formed. Character is a Greek word. It actually means engraved mark, symbol, or imprint. And in the 17th century, it became to be associated with the kind of qualities that define a person. Qualities like intellect, intentions, judgment, and many more. But it isn't just personal preferences. It's how these qualities relate to morality. And again, Drucker had it right when he said that management is deeply involved in spiritual concerns, the nature of man, good and evil. And with that, I would simply define a person of character as someone who wants to know and do what is right. But how is character formed? Well, we shape our own character. Character is choice. We choose how we respond to circumstances. We choose how we deal with our emotions. And as we go through life, the choices we make begin to shape us and define us more and more. Now, of course, our choices are influenced by the people around us. But here too, we have a choice. Except for the family we were born into, we pretty much get to choose who we hang out with. So character is choice. And character formation is a little bit like fitness. Practice builds and non-practice destroys. And this continues throughout your entire life. But now back to our question. Character seems to be in short supply in leadership today. Why? Economics 101. There simply isn't enough demand. Really? Demand? What's demand? This is an abstract concept. Well, it's us, all of us. You see, we cannot just lament that our work cultures are toxic and that our institutions are a joke and that our boss is a tyrant. No, we have to step up and create more demand for character, especially in leadership. Well, how? Well, if we're the ones making hiring or promotion decisions, that's reasonably easy. That's reasonably easy, really. Simply make character a must-have criterion. No matter what, do not compromise on character. But what about the rest of us? Well, same principle. Don't compromise on character when taking a new job. Likewise, make character a must-have criterion. Don't go and work for someone with no character. I've made that mistake a couple of times in my career, and I've always came to regret it. Same when you're in a job. Don't tolerate toxic behavior at work. Speak up, take a stand. Perhaps other people will come to your defense. And if not, then maybe it's time to go and look for a job somewhere else. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Come on, Raymond. It isn't as easy as that. We're not always free to make these kind of choices. And I get that. We have bills to pay, families to take care of, and perhaps lots of other reasons why we won't take a stand. But perhaps this is the even bigger elephant in the room. Because now it's about us. This is a test of our own character. Are we willing to do what's right and stand up for what's right, even if it comes at a price? Excuse me. You see, if we're going to increase demand for character and leadership, we have to be willing to start with ourselves. Now, remember, I said that character is a bit like fitness and that practice builds. So before I close, I'd like to leave you with two ideas for how you can practice, for how all of us can practice, really. And the first is develop a love for truth. Truth is really the foundation of everything. Now, I know we live in an age of relativism where the idea that truth even exists isn't very popular. But I can tell you, if there is no truth, we can stop right now. Without truth, there is no reality. And without reality, power is the only thing that matters. Character becomes meaningless. So seek the truth. Don't blindly follow popular opinion. Think for yourself, ask questions, look at the evidence, go to multiple sources, leave your echo chamber. Yeah? Now, I know I'm not claiming that we can always know the truth perfectly, but we must try. We must know what we believe to be true and why we believe it. Second, examine yourself. Make it a habit to reflect on your own thoughts, words, and actions. Are they consistent with what you believe to be true? And Are they consistent with what is good in light of what you believe to be true? Now, this can be painful at times, really, but it does prepare us for the moment of truth, like it did for these two individuals. This is Jennifer Say. She's a former US national team gymnast, and after her sporting career, she joined a company, Levi Strauss, a company that she admired for many, many years before. Early in 2020, she became the global brand president of Levi's. And then COVID hit. Now, Jennifer has always been an outspoken advocate for children's rights. And during COVID, she became an outspoken critic of school closures and masking 5-year-olds. Problem is, you couldn't say that. Certainly not in California. So the company told her to keep silent. She didn't. The company increased the pressure. She continued to speak out until finally, in February this year, Jennifer resigned. She resigned. And as a final insult, the company offered her $1 million if she kept silent about her reasons for leaving. Jennifer didn't take the money. That is character. This is Dr. Peter McCullough. Early in the pandemic, with tens of thousands of people dying in the hospitals, he asked a simple question. Why don't we treat people before they have to go to the hospital? And so he developed the first protocol for early treatment of COVID-19. He treated his own patients with tremendous success. And today we have studies that demonstrate that early treatment reduces hospitalization and death by up to 85%. But in a world, in a culture that was fixated on lockdowns, masks, and vaccines as the only solution, that wasn't welcome. Peter lost his teaching position at a leading medical school. He was fired as the editor of many medical journals. And the state of Texas even tried to take away his license to practice. As a result, he now has $200,000 debt in legal fees, but he still continued to teach his patients. And he always spoke out and wrote about and spoke about how easy and cheap it is to treat COVID so that others can do the same. And that is character. Now, in summary, culture is a question of character, and character is a matter of choice. It's really that simple. If nobody contributes or tolerates toxic behavior at work, we won't have toxic behavior at work. With every decision we take, we either contribute to make the world a better place or to make it more corrupt. Let's make it better. And remember that what's good is always rooted in truth. Or, as Alexander Solzhenitsyn put it, live not by lies. And that's really our choice every single day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that uplifting presentation on character. And we have a question for you from one of our jury members. Wietse, can you hear me?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, please.
Hello, go ahead.
Raymond, loved your talk. You mentioned that you were burned a few times by taking a job at a company with a leader that had a lack of character. Yeah. How would you evaluate a company's culture if you're interviewing for a position at a new company?
Well, I think we have to distinguish sort of two things. One is the culture of the company, and one is the immediate individual you're going to report to. And I would always start with that individual, because we know that people don't leave companies; they leave bad leaders, really. And while it's not that easy, it actually can be done. I mean, it's by their fruit that you shall know them. So look at the results that these people produce. For instance, if you're talking to your potential future boss, look at the team he's created. Talk to that team. Talk to people in the organization that know the individual, but that are not in a position of power. How does this person treat these people when they're not in a position where they can return favors or things like that? So it's really look at the results mainly on a people level, that the kind of track record that people have left behind on a people level, and that is something you can find out when you talk to people. So that would be my sort of quick and easy recommendation here.
Thank you, Wietse. Thank you so much, Raymond. Thank you.
Thank you.